So before we get started, I put on the website the consultation form and the, we started training sessions, Zoom sessions, and consultations.
Great.
So we got like 35 minutes. I think I read Leash Reactivity or something?
So she became very reactive with dogs.
Okay.
Basically, I got her in September from a shelter in Indiana, and when she was there, she had parvo, and they had her on trazodone. Mm-hmm. So when I got her, I was giving her that twice a day. Mm-hmm. But I stopped. She got that for like less than a month when I had her, and then she's been extremely like mouthy, like bruised up my arms when I first got her, okay. And then she's gotten into like quite a bit of dog fights, like not my parents' dogs fight, and those are like real fights. Hers are like scrappy, but sure. That's how she got like the tip of her ear bitten off. Okay. And sometimes she'll just bum rush dogs, and like, so I can't like have her go to a dog park, or I can't have her really play with dogs unless she has like 15 minutes to like calm down around one.
Okay. When's the last time she's been to a dog park or socialized?
Well, she played with my brother's dog, like what, that was like 2-3 weeks ago. Okay. And then I can take her on a walk with like, if another friend, she had her dog with her. Mm-hmm. I can take her on a walk with them. They just like don't play, they're just like walking side by side. Mm-hmm. So she's kind of interacted with some dogs, but I haven't really let her play with them because she tends to get carried away and doesn't know how to like stop. Mm-hmm. She did a lot of that thing where she'll play with older dogs, and she likes to like wrestle and spar and all that, mm-hmm. And they don't like it, but the angrier they get, the more excited she gets. Like okay. Whenever a dog fight breaks out, sure. She runs to it.
Sure. And then obedience-wise, what are you trying to achieve with her?
Ideally, I would like for her to be able to be off leash, because I do think she has a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to get all of that out while I have to keep her on a leash. Mm-hmm. And I think also like, you know, getting that energy out would help her behavior too. But I mean, she's smart. She knows all of her commands. She's just extremely strong-willed. Mm-hmm. Where, like, if I have a treat, she knows heel backwards and forwards and does everything. But if I don't, it's like whether she feels like it or not.
Sure, talking about like outside. Like
yeah.
The heel.
Yeah.
The prong collar, was that your thing or is that from a trainer?
That was mine. So my parents' dogs, they had to get a dog trainer for aggressive like dogs, mm-hmm. And so she taught them how to use the prong collar on those dogs. So that's why I had it on her.
Okay. How long has she been wearing it for?
At least 4 months.
Okay. How old is she now?
She's older than a year. Palma, come here. I wouldn't think like quite a year and a half. They're saying her birthday was in October, that she was 1 in October, but I think that was too soon.
Okay. And then she's what, Shepherd Pit?
I do not know what her mix is.
Okay, because she definitely looks like she's got pretty face and pretty stature, for sure. As soon as, because when I saw the form, I think it said like terrier shepherd mix. So I can see shepherd outlines and stuff like that, but the face and the build and the body all to me says pit.
Okay.
She's cute. Anything else?
I think that's it for the most part. To myself to write a list, I don't forget. But yeah, just basically having her chill out and being able to follow commands while we're out.
Okay, so your goals would be, of course, like the reactivity, mm-hmm. Socialization, and then just general like off-leash control. Mm-hmm. Okay. What does her life look like with you, or what would it look like with you, like if you could do what you wanted with her? If you had the training that you need and everything, like what does her life look like?
So I mean, right now we go on like very long walks when I try to fit them in like every day. But if she were able to do off leash, I'd be able to. I live right by Lincoln Park, so I'd be able to like take her out there and have her like running around and
on the lakefront.
yeah, and like I don't know, having fun running around there, and not worrying about her like fighting with other dogs. Like she has even bum rushed like 2 service dogs, and like so I'm very like cautious of her like doing that again. So I just feel like she's very. That didn't really tell you what her life would be like.
Yeah, because you're going by like, well, you know, what you like, because you're limiting her.
Come again?
Like, so you're putting limitations on her, right?
Yeah.
Because of what you know. But that's what I'm asking. Like, forget about her limitations. Like, if you could have what you wanted with her, what would that look like?
A lot more off leash at the park and her being able to play with other dogs.
Okay.
And at home, definitely being able to interact with her with less mouthiness, because I've always had like some bruises on my arms or hands because she sees my hands and thinks that there's like 2 toys.
Sure.
So, and she is like extremely cuddly. She always likes to cuddle on the couch, but the second she sees my hands, it's like a 2 toy.
What about, like, would you go to restaurants with her, things like that?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get her, she does great when I take her to stores.
Okay.
Like she is very well mannered, she like acts like she's a service dog when we're in stores. And she likes to like, I call her brown noser when she sees all like the people who work at the store. And they like, she sees that they're saying she's cute or whatnot. She like walks up to them and like, oh, I wanna, you know, I'm so kind and I don't hurt people.
Oh, like you don't see like the kind of over the top energy?
Correct. Yeah, she's very calm, very like starts being cuddly and like sinks into their arms for them to pet her. So when she's at stores, she does really good. I guess I would like to be able to take her to restaurants too in the summer, because I take her basically everywhere with me now. So she does need more obedience as far as like not jumping up at the table or not just going for food.
Okay. Oh, I just had it right now when you're saying, go to restaurant, coffee stuff. Okay, and then make sure I'm remembering that correctly. I know there was a starting scuffles. Okay, yeah, so definitely dog reactivity. When do you see the dog reactivity?
The dog reactivity, anytime we go out, if she gets close to, so she'll go up to a dog, and she does that thing where it's like, is it like stalking? Kind of like prowl up to them, and she'll like sniff the other dog, and as soon as the other dog starts like moving more, like I don't know, like after like 3 seconds of them sniffing, she always like mounts on top of the dog.
Gotcha. So it's not leash reactivity?
No.
So she can walk past dogs, no problem?
Right, well we can walk past dogs and I can see she wants to run towards them and that's all she pays attention towards. But since she knows she's not allowed to go do that, she's just like walking next to me. But her muscles are like very stiff.
Yeah. Okay. Before reaching out, should you do research on my company and how we train and everything?
Yes.
Okay, so you know we use e-collar, from collar.
Yeah, my parents' dogs use that too, so.
Yeah, so yeah, here, I'll kind of give you a realistic expectation of things. Remote collar really opens up what we can do. Okay, for me it's the best tool, the most efficient, it's the most effective, which is why all my dogs over 6 months are trained on it. Any dog that walks out of here that's been trained by us is on an e-collar unless they're under 6 months and it's a puppy. Those we train with like food and all that stuff. I don't use prong that much anymore, just because you're limited to only the leash.
Yeah.
As soon as you take the leash off, now you no longer have control of your dog. It takes more technical skill to kind of use correctly. Whereas remote collar and the style in which I use it is very simple. Doesn't take a lot of technical skill from the owner. We don't have to worry about if the dog is, you know, like I had a young lady, she was probably 90 to 100 pounds and she had a 150 pound Great Dane, and he was dog reactive. and she lived in Bucktown. So he would just drag her across the street. I just got dragged yesterday by a great thing and ripped the leash through my hand there. So for her, she had a problem with e-collar because since she was so petite, obviously the dog was 1.5 times her size. The problem was to help give her that immediate leverage because since she was in Bucktown, she could turn the corner, there'd be a dog there. And then the remote collar allowed her to correct and or stop the reactivity that wasn't dependent on physical strength. Because she could yank the dog as hard as she wanted, but if the strength is not there, the dog's not going to care.
Right.
And I even get some dogs that are really tough that even if I correct them, they give them my firmest correction, like they just blow right past it, they don't care. So that's where remote collar comes into play. So I just think, well, if it gets me off leash control right off the bat, it's easy, it's effective, it's efficient, it doesn't rely on physical strength on the owner or anything like that. I get people that are like, I have a dog right now, like a German Shepherd. The owner's probably 70 years old. Okay, and she's dog reactive as well. So e-collar just kind of helps compensate for a lot of things that other tools can't at the press of a button.
Yeah.
So here, what determines length of time and cost and everything is just what you're trying to achieve. I feel like you have a dog that has some overstimulation issues, and she also just happens to be a more kind of just over the top kind of dog. You know, like there's people like that where they're just like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because so like the reason I would say she's kind of nippy, more mouthy, and like she's kind of more expressive with you than she is with the people at the store, because she's comfortable with you, right? So she pushes more boundaries, and then when she sees someone in the store, she's more like reserved, right?
Yeah.
But then I would assume if they had her for a period of time, she got really comfortable with them, they most likely see the same type of behavior, unless they're putting some kind of rules on her. So here, all the obedience stuff is relatively easy, okay? The most difficult part of dog training is just behavioral work.
Yeah.
Because there's so many variables that come into play. Yours is fairly simple because it's just, she's not dog reactive in the sense that she's lunging and barking at dogs on the leash. It's just she has bad manners. And if left to go kind of too far, it can trigger a fight. Or if she's looking at a dog and it's like overwhelmed with intent, where you said she just bum rushes her.
Yeah.
Okay. So good news is all that stuff can be stopped. Bad news is getting her to socialize in a setting like a dog park. There's so many variables in play. She can be fine, but then there's another dog that's not fine, and then they come up to her, and then they start talking with her, and then there's a lot of things in play there.
We've been told that like dog parks are not like the best place, and even like people in the neighborhood, they're like, don't take your dog to a dog park.
Yeah.
Because it's too much. Like you said, variables.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens. You know, there's you can even Google it. Like in River North, there was a corgi that was attacked by a pit. Like had to have sutures and drains and stuff. And the people just took their dog and left.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not uncommon. You know, my Chihuahua was attacked by a dog at a dog park. Now nothing happened to him, but the lady just took her dog and just kept playing. Then the dog came back to try to attack my dog again, and I kicked the dog to protect my Chihuahua, and that lady blew up at me. You know, so. But when it comes to like socializing her with like friends' dogs or family dogs and stuff like that are well behaved or the owners have control of, that's more realistic because it's regulated, you know, by all the humans and stuff. And then correcting her behaviors with the e-collar and everything would be much more simple. So here, there's 6 commands: sit, stay down, come, place, heel. The 2 most important commands are the heel and the recall. Sit down, place, and stay are kind of if the owner needs it. If you would like her to go to restaurants, that would require a stationary command, like a place command or a down command. Because it would be you at the restaurant, she's laying in the bed for the next hour to 2 hours while you can enjoy yourself, and then afterwards you head out, no problem. So all these commands are meant to be functional. These commands are meant for you to live your life with your dog and like, just do whatever you want with your dog. It's just a matter of do you need everything, right? When it comes to off-leash reliability, the only command that needs to be off-leash reliable is the recall. Everything else is if you want it to be. Okay, so we train dogs to be fully off-leash if the owner wants. Sit, stay down, come, place, heel, all that stuff built to off-leash reliability. That's usually for people that do everything with their dog. They go hiking, they go to the dog beach, they go to the dog park, they go to the park in unenclosed areas, they go to restaurants, go to friends' houses, right? They go to parties with their dogs all the time. So they need all commands. Most people fall between the walk my dog and call my dog, and walk my dog, call my dog, and tell my dog not to move for a little bit. Okay? So, and that's kind of what dictates length of time. E-collar is very effective, and right off the bat, after you've had your first lesson, what you have learned will be applicable in the world. Then it's just practice, okay? Because practice is what makes it functional. If you just teach, like if you just do short training sessions and then you expect her to listen outside, it's not how it works. You have to take the obedience and go into the environments in which she's going to be needing to apply those skills and using them, okay? So the first thing we always teach is to heel, because it helps teach the dog how their e-collar works. Most people's first thing they want to cover is either leash reactivity or leash pulling. When a dog feels an e-collar, they tend to want to move in response to it. Typically, they want to move away from it, and we don't want the dog to run from the collar. We want the dog to come into the owner. So it helps give the dog the option to move, but at the same time teach them not to run away, but to come to the owner. So the heel is super important. It's always the first thing that we cover. That's 2 classes. So the first class, I kind of give you a stripped down version of it. You go and practice, because walking your dog is typically like a 3-time-a-day thing for most people. So if you're walking her 3 times a day, 7 days a week, you're learning how to use that e-collar more quickly, as opposed to, I give you an exercise that you'd only do like once every few days, okay? It's all about practice. So then on class 2 or week 2, I will show you the second half of the heel, and then you go off and do your homework. By class 3, we're most likely moving into a recall, which is the come and call stuff, because recall tends to take the longest. So recall tends to be the longest.
So I'm letting her just be, like, do what her behavior to, like, be how she is, like, that you could, like, I don't know, see.
Sure.
How she is.
Yeah, no, she started biting my hand, so I corrected her. So,
oh, that's fine.
Okay, so the recall is usually by the 3rd class. Recall tends to take the longest to teach. Is the longest to teach, because it requires you to go to the park. You gotta find opportunities to practice, right? That are distracted, call it back, and all that stuff. So recall can take a few months to teach, to get it to the point where you're good and it's off-leash reliable. But once you know how to teach it, it's just practice it.
Yeah.
Okay? There's not like, if someone is like, hey Jesse, like I need 10 classes on recall, I'm like, no you don't. It's literally like just 2 classes, and then just practice until you get to the point where you can trust your dog off-leash. So 2 on heel, 2 on recall. If taking her to restaurants is also something you want to do, as typically a class. If you're not wanting the 6 commands, then I just teach the place command. Okay, so you go to the restaurant, you pop a towel down, you tell her to place, she goes, and you just have brunch, dinner, whatever. The reason why I do place is it's more lenient than sitting down. Sitting down is very specific, right? Sitting position, down position. So if you down your dog, she has to maintain the down. If you send your dog to place, she can sit, stand, or lay down, she just can't get off. But she's still contained. Does that make sense? So it's easier to teach, and it's easier, and that's typically what people do anyways when they go to the restaurants, is they usually employ the place command, because they don't want to have to worry about keeping their dog in a very strict position. It's easier to just go like, okay, my dog's gonna be here, but they have more kind of options in terms of what they can do. So that's 5, class 5. Class 6 can be the socialization. When it comes to socializing dogs correctly, it's really, again, me showing you, okay? Because in the dog world, being face-to-face is very confrontational. Dog parks are kind of unrealistic, unless you have like a super social dog, whatever, but then there's the variables of what about the other dogs. So I can show you how to socialize her with a friend's dog or a family's dog correctly, and give you the steps to it, and then it's kind of rinse and repeat, okay? That's me bare bonesing it, okay? So I will be the 6 classes. If you did, so I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs, so at minimum you're like into the 6th class range. If you want to have a little bit more wiggle room on what we accomplish socialization-wise or behavior-wise, you'd be more like in the 9-week realm, okay? Now, if you decide, hey Jesse, I don't want the stationary stuff, you know, and you did 6, then it opens up an extra class, like for doing behavioral stuff, right? Because the heel and the recall have to happen for what you're wanting in terms of the off-leash control. Those 2 things have to happen. So if your priority then is after you get the recall and the heel is behavior, we can just shift gears and then wrap up with the behavioral stuff. I don't care. But if you want to be able to like take her to restaurants, have her off-leash in Lincoln Park, and then you know the walking stuff and like being able to correct her when she sees a dog or whatever, or ideally not even have to correct her because she just knows how to conduct herself, then you're more like in the 9 class range. Okay. Each class is an hour, it's once a week. You would pick a time with Maria. I typically do recurring times unless you happen to have like rotating schedule?
Yeah, I have a rotating schedule, but.
Okay, so if you have a rotating schedule, a little bit, the way that would work is we would ask you for your schedule or your preferred times, whatever, right? And then she would book like the first 2 or whatever classes according to your schedule. And then when you get your next one, you send it to her and she does it like that.
Okay.
Now, if you have a rotating schedule, I may not see you for a couple of weeks at a time sometimes, okay? We try to do week by week, but right now, like for my repeating or my kind of fixed customers or clients, we're booking out to June because all the times are kind of filled up. But if you have like a varying schedule, you know, she would just put you in if there's a morning time and you're available, she'd put you there if you wanted it, and then if there's an evening time another day, she'd put you there. But then we might not have correlating schedules for a week or 2. But it doesn't mean anything, it just means you have more time to practice, okay? With the way that I teach, people always stress about that, like, well, if I can't see you every week, how's it gonna work? Like, it works just fine because of how I train it. So then it's just, okay, you have more time to train, make mistakes, then when you come back, either a week longer or 2 weeks longer, whatever, you already have like more information to come with. So like also the other thing is just weather. Like this, I have a client that they're getting towards the end of the program and they're doing week by week. And I usually recommend towards the end that people space out their classes. But like this past week, I'm positive they're not gonna have been able to train because it's been so like spotty with the weather. Because once we get towards the latter half of the training, a lot of it's just outside. You know, so if it's raining or it's snowing or it's too cold or whatever, or you're working, you may not always have the capacity to practice consistently. So that's where more space between classes comes in handy because it allows you to still put in the time. So when you come back, you're like, you know what, Jesse, I only had 2 times to train her. You know, it's really just kind of a waste of your class, really.
Yeah.
You know, questions about any of that stuff?
No, I mean, I think the longer, like the 9-week one sounds more like what I would want for her.
Okay. As we do the 9-week, if we cover the behavior stuff and you're like, man, this is good, right? Then I just keep teaching more control.
Okay.
Okay, so I prioritize what I think you need. Once we get that down and you've learned that stuff, it's all about how you feel. If it's like, you know what, Jess, I didn't really get that class on the socialization, can we do it again? I said, sure, we'll go about it. But it's really straightforward. It's just learning how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, the obedience stuff is us teaching her. The behavior stuff is me teaching you. Okay, so the behavioral stuff is easier just because, let's say the mounting. Growing up, I was raised old school. I was spanked. So like, yeah. So like, if I only talk back to my mom once in my life. Okay, to kind of give you a feel for like how strict my mom was. I was a one-time kid, right? If I didn't do my homework, I got spanked. If I didn't do my chores, I got spanked. If I stayed out too late, I got spanked. If I talked back, I got slapped in the face once. You know, my mom was super strict. But when it comes to stopping things, you know, like, you know, talking back, for instance, it was just a consequence. And then I was like, that you're not going to do that, right? Same thing for dogs. If she tries to mount the dog and that dog goes, you're not going to do that, they will just bite her. Right? Now, whether or not she takes the correction and stops or retaliates is a different conversation. Right. But that's how it works. So behavior is simple because it's simply applying aversive. Like earlier, actually, when she was trying to bite in my hand, and I just popped her on the prong. That was me biting her with the prong collar. Yeah. And then she stayed here for a bit. She tried to bite me again, and I corrected her, and she was like, "All right, well then I'm gonna go over here." Yeah. Right. And I didn't say anything to her. I didn't say sit down or whatever. Right. I didn't say no. I just bit her.
That's what. Sometimes when I walk her and she tries my patience so much, I'm like, I know. Well, I watch Dog Whisperer like everyone else, and he goes nose, eyes, ears, and I'm like, so I know you're not gonna listen to me. So we'll go on walks where like I don't talk to her, and we just communicate with like leash pressure and like me not moving and whatever.
Sure. So that's how behavior works. It's apply an aversive to stop something. So like, have you ever touched a hot stove?
Huh?
Have you ever touched a hot stove?
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
That was an aversive, right? So you don't want to do that again. So it's the same thing here. E-collar does both teaching the dog to do something and stopping behaviors. So if like you're trying to socialize with your friend's dog and she's just getting a little bit too pushy, you could use the remote to settle her down. You're not going to get the sits. You're going to keep it at 4 to 5. Okay, so you can control her because it's all off leash now. And that's why teaching to heel is important because it teaches her how to turn it on, turn it off. It's not about just slamming her with the collar.
Right.
The e-collar is like a bite on a button, is what I tell people. So once you understand that you have a means of regulating her, because she's not good at it herself. Okay? When it comes to things in the house like biting at your hands or behaviors you want to stop, like when you're barking out the window, that's simpler. It's still apply and aversive, right? So like right now, like let's say you're at home and she's biting at your hands and you have a prong on her, just pop her on the prong.
Yeah.
Don't put your mouth on it. Now the hard part is she gonna stop it, but then also not do it again?
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right? You can get it, like right now you gotta stop it, but then let's say 10 minutes from now she comes back and she tries it again. She clearly learned to stop the moment, but then it retained, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And that's where I help you kind of fix that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And it's simple, okay? Behavior is always simple. Obedience takes time because you have to teach her to do something. In terms of the collar that I would recommend for her, how much does she weigh?
She weighs 41 pounds.
41. You technically have two options. You can pop her on the Dr. 2300, which is meant for 70 pounds and under, or you can put her on the Black Edition. The Black Edition is for 70 pounds and over. Okay. The reason why I recommend that tool is because it's only a few bucks more than the 2300, but it's meant for more stubborn dogs. So if you feel like she's going to be just hard-headed, that's where it comes into play. It's simply more power from less. So on the lower power collar, her number could be like 60. On the higher power collar, it could be like 30, 35.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just more punch with less power, or less lower in the level.
Yeah.
So there's 0 to 127 levels, increments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127. So we can really fine tune it to her. Old school collars had only 5 levels. So 3, your dog was yelping, 2, your dog wasn't listening. Whereas now I can go to 60, 40, 50, 59, 51, 48. You know, I can really fine tune it to the situation and the dog. So they're much more refined now. When I've worked with pitty mixes in the past and just pits, I haven't pit myself, they're pretty tough dogs. So usually when I'll just tell a person, put the dog on the Black Edition, so this way you don't have to worry about. Because you want to also think emergency situation. Let's say you're at Lincoln Park and she sees a rabbit, she prey drive kicks in or something, and she takes off after the rabbit starts to run into the street. You now have to override her moving very quickly, her chasing something in prey drive, the fact that she's already a physical animal and dogs bite each other, so she's already naturally physically more resilient, and just her physical toughness. So all those things are factor in because let's say her number is 25 and she's great, but then when it's an emergency situation, you might be maxed out on the collar trying to get her to come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so it just gives you more kind of comfort in the sense of like, okay, this is the best collar there is. I shouldn't have anything to worry about. Okay. Questions so far?
No, I think going with like what is it, like the Black Edition you say? Yeah, I think that makes sense.
It's a 1 mile range, fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver. They last for years. I've had mine for 8 years. The Black Edition is a newer model, just came out within the last year. The most common thing that happens is the battery is a rechargeable lithium battery, much like your cell phone, that after somebody charges, the battery starts to die. And it's usually after a few years. You can either send it to Doctra, and they'll charge a small fee to replace it, blah, 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 blah. Or you can order the batteries off of Doctra as well. They're like 15 to 25-ish bucks. And you open it up and you just pull out the old battery, put in the new battery, close it up, and then you should be good to go. Also comes with a warranty. I've been using Doctra almost all my career. It's the best collar. That's why on my website I just tell people I only use the Doctra brand because I've had no issues with them. If you're wanting like the whole 9 yards in terms of control and stuff, you can also do the 12. But in terms of what you're dealing with and what you're wanting, the 6 that is minimum, the 9 is kind of, we cover all the things that you're wanting, and then if everything's going really well and we have classes left over, we just keep teaching more stuff. Okay? 12 is just kind of guaranteeing we're going to cover everything with the variable of her behavior being in there. Okay? The structure is a little bit different too if you decide to do 12, because if someone comes in doing 12, I know they're wanting complete control. Is the structure of the first 6 classes would be different than it would be for like a 6 to 9 week course. Okay.
So you would do more what in the beginning?
So for the 12 week, I would cover all 6 commands. The sit, stay down, come, place, heel. Because the first half we teach the behaviors, the second half we start progressing towards off-leash reliability.
Okay.
So it most likely be the first 6 be obedience. Then on class 7 we can jump into the behavioral stuff. And then 8 through 12 we can just kind of jump around however you like.
Yeah, of those, the only one that I haven't gotten her to learn is the place. I tried, but that one's like harder for her. But she knows sit, stay, down, come when she wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're working, I'll take the long lead and work on recalls.
Good.
But yeah, and she knows the middle, and
Sure. Yeah.
so she's okay with, she understands how to learn. It's more she's like very strong-willed.
Yeah. And when it comes to dogs that are already been trained, even if they already know down or sit, we have to reteach it using the e-collar. Because it's not
Okay.
as simple as like down, and if you don't do it, I'm gonna remote you.
Uh-huh.
You have to teach her how to lay down with the e-collar. Okay, so that when you press the button, she goes into it, because most dogs tend to hop out of it, because e-collar makes dogs want to move, right? So
okay.
so you're putting her into a stationary position. It's not as simple as say down, she doesn't do it remoter. We reteach it. And I always teach things without words first, and then once the dog understands the concept, then I layer in the word afterwards, okay? But it's all personal preference. So 6, 9, 12, 6 to 9 is like kind of the minimum stuff. You're welcome to do 12 if you're wanting complete control. But most of my clientele's at 6 to 9 week range, okay? Other questions?
No, not really. I just really want to learn, start learning.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a wait for my girl with Maria. There could be anywhere between a 5 to 7 day turnaround for her to get back to you to start the scheduling process, because we got consultations, current clients who reschedule whatever, and then new clients coming on. And I know there's already a backlog of new clients trying to find spots. As far as I know, she said I'm booking out into June now. If you're wanting to start sooner, you could also start with my other trainer, Enrique. He's a solid trainer. He's been handling all my obedience and minor cases and stuff like that. And you could start with him, and then when I have an opening where we line up, you could then switch to me. He's able to start sooner. However, his schedule is a little bit more limited, depending on what your availability is. Mine is a longer wait, but then also with your rotating schedule, like there's going to be some things there. But we can get it figured out. I think that's about it. Other questions?
No, not really. I mean, a lot of what you were talking about, like I've already seen, like with the dog trainer that my parents had, because she was about to like almost not take their case because it wasn't like aggressive enough, until she found out like the 2 dogs at home kept on having like bites and needing to go get stitches. So I kind of like agree and understand like a lot of what you're explaining right now.
Just makes things easier, because that's the biggest thing about these consultations is the e-collar.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, you know, I'm like, you're not shocking your dog, it's just
I'm like, let's get the black edition.
Yeah. Is there one blacker than that one? Yeah, so that makes things easier, because that's what the bulk of the consultation is just educating people on how dogs learn and pressure and everything like that. So that makes this easier, and then it's just a matter of, you know, getting on the calendar and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So my suggestion to you is, you know, if you turn around and you know what you want, you can just email Maria. Otherwise, at the end of the day, I always get back to her, and because I'll have a couple of consultations a day, and I send her the info for them. But you know, if you're like, yeah, you know, 9 week or whatever, she can at least kind of put you in, so she knows that you're good for it or like wanting to do it. She'll send you a training form or a contract form, and then she'll get all the you know, accounting stuff and all that figured out.
I guess I kind of do, I do have a question. So I'm thinking about getting some sort of certification for her. I know like emotional support dog doesn't really count for much, but at least a therapy dog, just like that, I can bring her more with me places. And well, to be more like transparent, I did work a COVID ICU, and that's why I got her afterwards, because I mean, life was lacking any sort of anything enjoyable. But I didn't expect to be anxious in crowds going back into things, so that's why I'm also like more looking into being able to take her to a restaurant, being able to take her with me to crowded places. So in that case, do you think we should just do the 12, or do you think that perhaps that could be achieved with the 9?
So a couple things would be emotional service animals have a bit more. It's better than a therapy dog. Therapy dogs can only go into like I think hospitals or like certain places like schools. ESAs can go like on airplane and stuff like that, and I think they recently just changed that. And I think now it's only service dogs can also fly, can only fly now.
Right.
So you can train her to be a service dog. I've trained, help people train their own service dogs, okay? Well, all you need is a letter from the doctor. Your dog has to be under control, which would mean you get control. You know, it's when dogs are having outbursts and lunging and being reactive and stuff that people question, like, why is this really a service dog? And then a service dog is meant to perform a specific task. So in the past, when I've had people that have had like anxiety attacks or panic attacks or anything like that, what we would teach them is that, like, for one client, the dog would come over and lick her, and the licking would help kind of ground her. We also trained her dog to sit on her lap. Or like if she started to do this with her leg a certain way, we taught her dog to recognize that, and she'd come over and jump on her. So for a service dog, you just need a letter. Your dog has to be controlled, and then lastly, they have to perform a task, and that task can be anything. It can even be turning on a light switch. Okay, and then you're fine, and that gives you. There's no like organization that, how would you say, regulates the service dog industry. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
So as long as your dog is well trained and not acting a fool, you're fine.
Okay, all right.
If you're wanting that, then I suggest you're doing more 12.
Okay.
Because you want to have full control. Because like right now, she barked like that, and people looked at her and she had a vested service dog.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
No. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. So Maria will get in contact with you. If you know you're wanting, because that was just my client coming in right now. If you know you're wanting that